Eminem released his highly anticipated 12th studio album, The Death of Slim Shady. It's a concept album, and Eminem tweeted that out in very, very plain terms for everyone to see. But because media literacy is at an all-time low, this seems to have gone whoosh right over people's heads upon first listen. It's almost like if you're not lip singing and dancing for a 30-second video, it's too much for people to handle. So I'm going to point you in the right direction for listening to this album. It's The Death of Slim Shady. That's the name of the album. It's not a particularly hard idea to understand, but since most people seem to listen to songs and just think, do I like how this sounds or not? Let's break it down. The idea behind the album is that Marshall Mathers has two personalities, Eminem and Slim Shady. That's nothing new. The pill-popping, comic book villain with the chainsaw and the Jason mask, murdering women, talking reckless, that's always been a part of M's career and his persona. He's done songs bouncing back and forth between those personas. That's not new. But this time, the theme is one of growth. The first half of the album is songs and skits with a lot of the old Eminem. He's talking reckless, he's offending every marginalized group in society, he's rapping about the most controversial news topics with updated names and stories to make you gasp, even going as far to reference Cassie getting beat up by Diddy in a lyric that's blurred out on the dirty version, something Eminem only reserves for his harshest of rhymes.
The next idiot asked me is getting his ass beat worse than Diddy did.
But as the album goes on, you listen to the lyrics and the skits, you can tell it's Eminem battling with his old former self, realizing how childish and immature he was, calling himself out for some of his gimmicks and tricks and the hypocritical nature, calling people sensitive when he's one of the most sensitive people. So the people who are listening to this and glorifying, the old Eminem is back and he doesn't give a fuck, they are completely missing the idea. He does give a fuck, and he knows that the old Eminem just says shit that gets 13-year-old boys excited. That's not what this album is. Now, he does it with his old sound, something that we were all desperate for after like 5 albums of weird accents and quintuple time flows. He does it with an impeccable flow, great wordplay, great punchlines that still make you go, whoa. So you put that together with the adult theme, and it turns out to be one of his best efforts that I think can go toe-to-toe with prime Eminem. I knew we were fucked as soon as people listened to the very first bars of the album on the first song, Renaissance. The immediate reaction was, I can't believe Eminem dissed Kendrick and Wayne and Kanye. Because Eminem says Kendrick's album was cool, but it didn't have any bangers. Wayne's album were yays, couldn't tell you which was lamer. And everyone jumped saying, is Kendrick gonna respond? Or I thought he was cool with Wayne. Literally, the words right before that rhyme is, now let's travel inside the mind of a hater, because I don't see any fans, all I see is complainers. And then he finishes it off with some great wordplay about picking apart Picasso's art till you're blue in the face and don't wait to get your flowers because you get them at your funeral. So M is blatantly telling people the point of view he's rapping from, and that was too much for them to understand. So I fear there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are not going to take the time to listen to this album in order to understand that Eminem is canceling himself because he's grown up. The album is broken into 3 parts in my mind, with the skits marking a shift in each tone. The first part of the album begins with Renaissance, my favorite line being, soon as I quit giving a fuck, I started to sell a bit. Great line. Then it goes right into Trouble, which offends every group in society, and then Brand New Dance, which is an entire song making fun of Christopher Reeves. Then Evil, which is a vintage Eminem song. It's got a dark beat, catchy sing-song hook, and it's all about his fucked up rotten brain. And that's followed by the All You Got skit. And this is the first time we see Slim Shady talking to Eminem, saying, you'll never escape me, I created you, I'm all you've got. And then part 2 begins with Lucifer, which is the best production on the album in my opinion. Classic Dre beat with Eminem bars. And the intro explains that the coup de grace is the final shot right between the eyes to stop the pain and suffering, which is what Marshall Mathers is trying to do with Slim. So then we go on a 4-song run of Antichrist, Fuel, Road Rage, and the first single everyone's heard, Houdini. Antichrist is the peak Clutch Your Pearls song on the album. He's rapping about Diddy's dildos, Jeffrey Epstein, sucking his own dick, sexual assault, yeah, you know, the usual. Fuel has a great feature from JID and a verse from M that's reminiscent of his rap god flow. Road Rage is just making fun of fat people, and then Houdini, the first single that everyone knows. Then comes the most important part of the album, the breaking news skit, which signifies the third and final act of the album. And the skit is a news report talking about Eminem trying to cancel himself. And that goes right into Guilty Conscience 2, and that's where the album flips. It's Eminem facing off against Slim Shady, with the highlights being Eminem calling his old self out for being immature and hypocritical.
Just immature and literally you're still mentally 13 and so thirsty for some controversy.
And then we learned that the whole Christopher Reeve song was actually from 2004 and recorded for Encore, but he pulled the song because Christopher Reeves died.
Oh.
So again, for all the people whose first reaction was, he's 50 years old and he's still rhyming like this, he's still talking about Christopher Reeves, that's the point. That's what the song is about. And it ends with M calling Paul Rosenberg, saying it was all a dream. It's a perfect Paul laugh. And then the final part of the album concludes with the new music about the important things. Temporary is a song for Haley from the point of view of him being dead and her coping life without him. Got very cute clips of him and Haley when she was a kid. The Jelly Roll song, Somebody Save Me, is talking all about his addiction. And the final third features the Big Sean and Baby Tron Toby single, other Eminem tracks with his current style, and then he throws in a Ken Kniff skit for good measure. It's a complete album with the vintage sound that will probably only resonate with a certain demographic and certain generation. I don't expect young people to like this or give a fuck about any of this. Why would they? He's 50. They don't even know who he is. And also, there's a huge contingent of people who have just decided to judge Eminem off the last 10 or 15 years of bad albums, who probably won't give this album the time and attention to fully understand it, and that's okay too. But for real fans of Eminem, and for people my age who love Eminem for his prime, people who grew up on the kind of music on the first half of the album, and who are old enough to understand and appreciate the second half of the album, The Death of Slim Shady is a great piece of work. And it's exactly what Eminem needed to do. The flow, of course, untoppable. The wordplay, impeccable. The punchlines and rhymes are top shelf. That's all over this album to still satiate the stuff that everyone loves about rap. But when you're 50 and one of the most successful and prolific and biggest rappers of all time, it's hard to put out an album when you don't really have anything left to say. And so it may have taken about a decade and a lot of reflection, but Eminem finally got there, had a lot to say, and absolutely killed it with The Death of Slim Shady.